Welcome, people. It is I, Kerubus136, with, a patch review. My headset was going weird right there. So, 7.36b hit last night. I did see this. I read almost all of it. I don't usually do that. I react in real time, but I just didn't have time to make a video at that point. I did not finish it. Once we get to the hero changes, I kind of just bounced around. And I think now that I can think about it, I'll have different opinions about what things actually will impact the game. So first off, Vision has made quite a few changes here. It updated how Vision... Thank you, Falcon. Appreciate that. If you want to play Falcon, by the way, after this, I am up for it. Updated how Vision sharing functions with non-player controlled units. It affects the Mars facet, Bloodsport, and the Night Stalker's facet, Blinding Void. Basically, it's just going to change how, like, a creep will share Vision with someone who's getting a Vision reduction thing. I think that will just make it more standard. Die-radiant buildings and creeps can now be affected by Vision sharing, while their individual Vision is unlinked. They do not provide any shared Vision. I'm not sure how that will change things. I think it'll actually make it less ridiculous when you lose all Vision, but I'm not 100% sure. Rules for how player-controlled units share Vision is unchanged. So basically, with heroes, nothing's different. Observer and sentry wards always use the team's Vision regardless of the status of who placed them. Meaning, I guess there might have been an issue where somebody who had shit Vision put a ward down and it had shit Vision. Now everybody gets the benefit. Other controlled units use the Vision status of the player's hero. Meaning that you're... Okay, so if you have a Beastmaster Boar, and Beastmaster gets hit with the... Night Stalker thing, right? Where you don't get any Vision at all. Then I guess that would mean that the Boar also gets shit Vision until Beastmaster's out of it. I guess that's what that would mean, right? Alright, Force Movement Knockback got quite a few changes, and I don't know how this is actually going to matter. Force Movement is any effect that forcibly moves a unit. Knockback is a subset of Force Movement, meaning it is a type of Force Movement. It applies to any effect that pushes or pulls a unit a fixed difference. Over a short period of time. Does not apply to constant applications of movement speed. Wind Ranger's Gale Force is not knockback, right? Because it doesn't knock you back, you can still move, right? Does not apply to effects that move units to a fixed point. Darkseer's Vacuum, which chooses a point and goes... That's not really, knockback either, because they aren't. The following abilities are considered knockback, and it just changed what counts. I don't think it matters terribly. It's going to change some really interesting small things, but it doesn't matter much. Item changes. Armlet. Unholy Strength, which is the active, no longer provides slow resistance at all. This is a nerf to Armlet. I don't think it's a bad nerf. I think it probably never should have had slow resistance in the first place, so it's really just putting the item back where it belongs. Blade Mail costs 200 more. Now, these are changes I like to see. Blade Mail is still buyable. It still has the same concept, meaning, like, I like Blade Mail in general. It's like, okay, but it's just more expensive. You can't get it as early, so it won't counter heroes like Wind Ranger as fast. It's a bigger investment, right? Bloodstone, lost 50 health, 50 mana. That's probably needed too. The AoE bonus is huge, as is the spell lifesteal, as is the active spell lifesteal, so it didn't really need that much health and mana. So they just kind of brought it back a little. Alright, Crimson Guard. Now, me and Furry talked about this, and I don't know how to feel about it yet. So, it changed it so that the damage block is now based on the caster's max health instead of strength. That means other heroes that aren't strength might be able to actually do this. But let's just pretend someone has 4,000 health, because that's when it really gets concerning, right? Someone like Pudge carrying it or whatever. I'm going to use a calculator and figure out how much this is going to block. So, 4,000 health times 0.025. If someone has 4,000 health, they're going to block 100 plus 70, so 170 damage. And I think that people who had high strength were blocking around the same anyway. Because before, when it used to be based on... Because, like, back in the day, I'm going to look it up real quick so I can get a new formula for you guys. Okay. So, you know, we're going to look into DotA Crimson Guard, right? I'm going to throw some numbers at you guys so we can see the comparative. Because I want to see what it used to be, okay? Sorry, I don't see the change log at all. Okay, it used to be 60% of strength. Okay, plus the fix. It was 70, and it was 60% of current strength. So if a hero had... Now remember, we're doing 100 plus 70, so I'll remember that. If a hero had, 200 strength, obviously, they were going to block more than this. If a hero has 150 strength back in the day, obviously it's going to end up equaling a pretty reasonable number. They were going to block 90. So, the strength that used to be the same block was right a little over 150 strength, right? Which, by the time you have a Crimson Guard, things were going. It wasn't that problematic, and this is compared to about 4,000 health, which is what I just listed. A lot of heroes never really get that high anyway. So I think Crimson Guard in general is going to be a lot weaker for most of the game. It is possible that when someone really stacks like 5k health or so, it might get stronger than it ever did before. That is a possibility. But in the same token, I want you guys to understand that more heroes can pick it up conceptually now. Because you don't need strength, you just need some health. And if you're building health items, that would benefit you. I do think it's a nerf overall, though, and I think that's a good thing. Good. Strength bonus and Eternal Shroud went down by 4. The active, which is... you get stacks whenever you get hit with spell damage, and they increase your magic resistance, went down by 1 second. Yeah, I still think it's going to be weaker most of the game, though, Falcon. It's going to take a long time for it to be a stronger item at the end of the game, kind of dealio. It'll usually just be weaker, statistically speaking. So... yeah, it'll be weaker. But yeah, for sure, it does open up some possibilities. This is a huge nerf. They've been trying to nerf Eternal Shroud every single patch for a while, right? They've lowered different stats on it. They lowered the magic resistance last patch, I think in 7.36a, I believe. Now they're lowering the strength. They're lowering the stack thing. I think finally we've hit a point where Eternal Shroud is just not that good. Not anymore. Losing 4 strength in a second off the stack, which also reduces the ability that the stacks that you gain have a duration, right? Yeah, for 5 seconds. Which means that normally you can keep stacking if you keep taking damage, but now it's more likely all your stacks go away. Because I believe it refreshes and keeps all the stacks, if I'm correct. So it's harder to keep lots of stacks, and you won't get the benefit as long anyway, and it's less strength. I think finally it's probably just a decent item. It's not amazing, and that's where it needs to be. Helm and both helms now give experience when you control the creep, because you obviously lost the opportunity to kill the creep by controlling it. I hate this. I don't want that to be a thing. I hate these items. I actually wish that Helm and both helms were removed from the game. I don't want the idea of taking creeps to be just a universal everybody can do thing. If you don't already have creeps that you can control, then don't have creeps. I just don't. I hate this. Holy Locket is 100 cheaper. It's because nobody buys this. Yeah, it's a Lycan buff. Of course it is. It's also a Beastmaster buff. Yep. Enchantress doesn't usually buy it, but it's a niche item. Could. So Holy Locket is just not, it's not bought anymore. It just doesn't do enough. All it gives you is 9 attributes, and of course the, you heal more and you get the stacks that you can put on someone. So it's not really great. So it has to be cheaper. Or I don't even think it's. I still don't think it'll be bought almost ever, but at least it's a little bit more tempting. Nullifier is getting changed. The duration of Nullifier went down, which is a huge nerf by a second, right? However, it now slows. It wasn't slowing, now it slows by 10%. So it's better in a quick, I want to kill you right now way, which is usually what you're using Nullifier for anyway. But the loss of a second on it makes it more likely that if someone can just live your salvo for 4 seconds, they can get out of it and then use their items like a Yule's, a Glimmer, a Force Staff. I still don't think it's going to matter tremendously, because if you're trying to burst someone with a Nullifier, you should be bursting them in under 4 seconds regardless. But it does make it harder to use, potentially. Octarine Core got the same treatment of losing 50 health, 50 mana. Probably needed. It did too much. Veil can now be used without interrupting channels. That means you can use it during Crystal Maiden ult, which you wouldn't really use it on Witch Doctor ult, but you could anyway. Anything like that. I think that's nice. It's a nice quality of life. Wind Waker, big nerf. Okay, 60 move speed across 2.5 seconds, right? 2.5 seconds is dramatic. It's still going to be a good item. Do not misunderstand me, right? This is still good. It's just so... I should probably scroll down so you guys can see better. Sorry. I was a little bit in the way. I'll just do this. It's just big. Because if you think about your moving every second, I believe when they look at movement speed, I think it's per second how many units you move. So that means that in 1 second, 120, and then of course... it's a half second, so 150 less units you'll move. Now, that's not that big, but it matters. Because a lot of people can use a Windmaker and just be like, oh, bye, I'm literally gone. You'll never see me again. And now it's like, well, it depends where you're standing. Maybe they'll never see you again, but maybe not. And that's exactly what I want things to be like. I don't want it to be a get-out-of-jail-free card from anywhere. So I really love to see this nerf. Neutral items, a couple changed. They're big, but not that big. Arcane Ring... 10 less mana. It's minor, but it is a nerf to supports. Lance of Pursuit. You deal more damage when you're behind somebody. It did 20, now it does... it did 15, now it does 20, making Lance of Pursuit actually bought. Nobody ever chooses this. I choose this 1 out of every, 20 games if it's an option. So now it's a little bit more tempting, right? 5 more damage is kind of... it's a lot. So this is a little bit more tempting. Whisper Dead lost 2% spell amp, which is probably needed too. It was only... yeah, no, that's good. Light Collector... yeah, I sometimes choose Lance. It depends. It can be okay if you're like Ursa or something, you're chasing someone, you want to slow them. Light Collector lost 2 day HP regen, which is a big deal. Orb of Destructions, slow and armor reduction lasts an additional second now, which make it a much more desirable item. I do use it sometimes, but it's even better now. The Spell Amp on Paladin Sword went down by 2. Sorry, the Spell Amp. The Healing Amp. Making it less of a universal, just let's heal all over the place for everybody. So just not so universally amazing. It's still good, though. Defiant Shell lost an armor. It was way too good. I love Defiant Shell, so it needed it. Aesthetics lost 25 health and 2 health regen. It does do way too much, so good. Havoc lost 2 strength. Rattlecage lost 2 armor. Stormcrafter hits the lightning. It takes 0.5 more seconds for the lightning to hit. And cooldown reduction doesn't make it hit more often, because I guess that was the thing, and I'm sure that was unintentional. Martyr's Plate gained 2 health regen, making this actually much more desirable. Mostly these are nerfs, right? Most of them, not all of them. A lot of nerfs. And that's because they were probably doing too much, and I like to see this. I like to see nerfs in general across the board for a lot of things. That's what I enjoy. Alright. I don't know what this facet does. That's the problem. So I'm going to open up AA real quick so I can see what his facet actually does. Cold Feet applies its Death Rhyme damage in an area around a target. So when you Cold Feet someone, it does the Death Rhymes. Okay. Its damage now, the Cold Feet now scales by his blast, meaning that doesn't immediately have an AoE. But it will gain more and more radius the more levels of ult you have. And that seems to be the way a lot of facets they like to see moving. So that makes sense. That's cool. Anti-Mage. This is one of my favorite changes I did read. So, Magebane's Mirror is when you're reverting back to standard Anti-Mage, who has the Reflect on spell rather than the other Anti-Mage. They gave you another reason to want to be regular Anti-Mage. If you reflect a spell and you have this facet, it does 20% spell amp on that spell. Both on Counterspell and Counterspell Ally. That means that if people have big spells like Lion Finger and you manage to, reflect it back, it's a big nuke. So it's a little bit more tempting now to take this facet. Not sure how often I will, but it's good. Arc Warden. Attack speed bonus for Magnetic Field during the Order one was changed so that it starts much lower, but it actually scales higher, which is wicked garbage, by the way. And the duration was increased just universally by 0.5 seconds at all levels, so it also lasts longer. So now you're going to see a lot of Arc Wardens just absolutely tearing you up because that attack speed, the difference of 40 attack speed is absolutely bonkers. Disorder, the duration was nerfed on Magnetic Field, so it's 1 second less at all levels, and at least that's cool. His talent for Flux cast range went up, and Flux duration talent went up as well. So they're just mostly buffs. There's one nerf here. Mostly buffs to Arc Warden, and that's gross. Okay. I didn't see this yet. This is new for me, even though I played Axe recently. Bonuses now start fading immediately on One-Man Army. One-Man Army is the thing that allows Axe to have strength to armor, I believe. Or whatever it is. Health to... I forget what it... I don't remember what it is. I just click on stupid Mars.
I am without end.
Strength based on his armor. He gains strength.
Nature provides everything Axe needs.
Bonus now starts fading immediately after approaching an ally over the 5-second linger duration. Radius was increased by 100, which means it's actually, you have to be farther from your allies. And bonus strength can be broken, which means like Silver Edge and stuff. Code of Blood. Armor per kill decreased. It was giving too much armor, so they literally halved it. They cut it in half. But the Culling Blade multiplier, I do like the other Axe facet as well, Falcon. I like the attack speed one and the armor one. I think it's really fucking nice to kill people. This Axe is more unkillable, but he does less. I would rather be less, tanky, even though the armor is tanky, but less tanky, and kill people. That's way more important. Culling Blade multiplier was increased, but to ×3. So the problem is, look at this, right? It was 1 times 2 before. It was just 2. Now, it's 3 times 0.5, which is 1.5. So even though it looks like the Culling Blade multiplier, like, oh, well, they did multiply, it will never equal out because they halved first. So it's still going to be less at all levels. It is more interesting now because if you get a Culling Blade, it's more impactful comparative, but it's a nerf. Just so we're clear, nerf. They also nerfed the armor on Berserker's Call just in general. They downed it by 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 3, 4, 5, yep. That's a big amount of armor to take away. His talent for Counter Helix went down. His Culling Blade damage was also decreased on a talent. So these are a lot of Axe nerfs, and honestly, they were probably needed. He felt really good when I played him recently, so this was probably needed. I was also really glad to see One-Man Army get nerfed because it was kind of stupid. It wasn't working properly with the radius and everything else, so that's cool. Bat Rider. Arsonist lets Sticky Napalm affect structures. And they increased the building damage because it didn't do enough. And the mana cost of Sticky Napalm went down slightly. Very minor changes, but they'll make Bat Rider a little bit more likely to be played. Beastmaster. Attack the inner beasts on beast mode. Yeah, I agree. So one of his facets allows him to gain a bunch of attack speed and apply Wild Axe's damage amp on target. And the attack speed was increased by, 2, 4, 8, 10? Yeah, 2, 4, 8, 10. So now he has a much more normal progression, but also just more attack speed during that. The boar attack damage was increased as well by 5 at all levels, making it more impactful. Yeah, I mean, for sure. They're going to probably try to bring him back, kind of. Bloodseeker. Max HP as heal was increased from 1% per level to 1.5% per level, giving him more health when he kills stuff. Blood Rage max health damage per second was decreased by 0.1%, making it not do as much damage when it's on you. The damage was increased by Blood Right 5, 10, 15, 20. I mean, it's whatever. It's nice for Bloodseeker, I suppose. Bristleback, the duration of Viscous Navel goo increased by 1. That is nice, actually. It's easier to get a lot of stacks now. That's a really big buff to Bristle. That matters a lot. I want to be clear about that. That's a big deal. Brood. Enemy regen reduction was increased, meaning that heroes who are in Spin Web, when you have necrotic webs, get even less healing. Which facet for it doesn't matter. This is a buff overall, but like I'm sure it's related to a facet. Don't get me wrong. It just doesn't. It'll affect no matter what.
Look who's here.
Yeah, that too. Sure. It's gonna affect it'll affect both bristles though, just to be clear, because you don't need to have that talent to make Viscous Nasogoo matter. Yeah, it would definitely impact that facet more, but the other facet, it still affects him. He still casts Viscous. Yeah, of course. So it's nice to see her actually stop enemy heal regen. You know what I mean? That's nice. The heal interval on Spider's Milk was decreased from 1 to 0.5. It just means it heals her more smoothly over the duration. That's all. Webs can be cast from further away. Really nice for Bristle because that's one of her biggest problems. Is getting potentially killed. Horsepower gave strength and movement speed. They decreased it by 5. I will never take that facet. I think it's worthless. His ult makes you fast enough anyway, so I don't see why horsepower would matter. It's not good enough for me. I will never take it, and now that they nerfed it, I'm just more sure I'm not going to take it. Rawhide, which is his 35 max health every 120 seconds, was decreased by 5. That's fair. Make him a little less tanky. Aghanim Shard strength was decreased by 3%, which is also nice. I'm sure it's probably fine, Falcon. I'm not saying it doesn't do well, because maybe early game Centaur can kill people in lanes solely off of horsepower. I just don't see why in the mid or late game it would be good at all. But that doesn't mean that people aren't winning games off of laning and then going really fast in the lane. I hate the idea. Nerf to some strengths as well. So these are just some Centaur nerfs to bring him back in line so he's not quite as tanky and not doing as much. This is good. I love this a lot. Chaos Knight, I checked this one for sure. They make illusions take 25% more damage, and his talent for lifesteal went down by 5%. Minor changes, but they were needed. Chaos Knight feels really impactful. Again, they've increased Divine Favor for like the 17th time. It went up by 0.51, 1.52 regen per second, which it lasts 6 seconds. That's a big deal. Hand of God's initial heal is increased by 50 at all levels, so it's a bigger like nuke heal. Which is really nice for Chen. Just more healing, basically. Just more support-esque Chen, you know. Let's get that Chen supporting, basically. Clockwork. Now grants allies hit a physical barrier equal to hookshot damage on hookup. I have to know more about that. So basically, is not a factor, because that difference is nothing. 5% is very minor. So hookup was when hitting an ally, hookshot has a larger impact radius and partially refunds its cooldown. And it grants allies that hit a physical barrier equal to hookshot damage, which hookshot does, up to 275 damage. I mean, it's minor, but it's cool. Why not, right? Just another buff to Clockwork, and I think he might have needed it. Dark Willow, both facets got increased. The max damage of Shadow Realm on throwing shade the damage she deals in an area to people around her Shadow Realm increased by 5%, because they really just want Dark Willow to play as a carry. They do not want her to be a support, even though that's clearly what she was intended for. And obviously Thorny Thicket's the other one. Additional Brambles duration was decreased from 7.5 to 6 because it was just creating too much of an area of denial, so that's a really big nerf. Ooh, Spirit Collector, I didn't read this one. It now scales with Exorcism. Hero Spirit damage was rescaled. Basically, it does more damage early, same late. Okay. Movement speed per level increased by 0.25%, so she's just faster too. So nice. Some nice Death Prophet love that may or may not be needed. Ooh, level Pain. Damage now works on level 30. So that means that even if both heroes are 30, he can do the damage anyway. Is that the case? I don't know. And now instead of 10% damage, it's 15. That's a really big change, actually. Just the 15 by itself, 10 to 15 is a really big deal, because now Doom can bully. Doom can go like solo off lane or something and try to bully immediately and do a lot of damage. I'm not sure how it will work, because the solo isn't really much of a thing anymore, but still. Okay. I didn't see this one either. Corrosive Breath effect bonus decreased by 10% at all levels. How does it do percentage? I don't understand what that means. And that's what this is, no? Can you explain this to me, Falcon? Because all it says is Corrosive Breath effect bonus. Is that a bonus it gets to the regular effect when he's in dragon form? So example, the bonus attack damage is 20, 60, 100, 140. He gets an extra on top of that? I don't understand. Because I'm reading and I don't see any other effect. I don't even see the dot. Maybe I just have to read the facet. I'll just go to DK. It'll probably make more sense if I just read it off the hero, because it never gives you enough information, in my opinion.
Dragon to the fray.
Nope. Okay. So when you have Worm's Wrath, Corrosive Breath damage 20, up to 20, and breath durations 3, and armor reduction 4. When you ult, that's all upgraded by a percentage. Okay. And now that percentage is 10 lower on all levels. I mean, that's kind of a big deal. It's not big enough, probably, but it's something. No, this is a decrease, Falcon. Yeah, it increases the buff. I'm saying this is a decrease, though. This is a nerf. Frost Breath effect bonus was decreased. Same thing. So Frost and Corrosive, they think they're both too good compared to Fire, so they brought them down. Health regen on Dragon's Blood, which is... I'm just reading. So, health regen and armor. Armor amount for both values is increased by 0.5 per level. So basically just the base number was 4. The base number is now 2. That will not multiplicatively affect anything except the 1 multiplier when he's in dragon form of 1.5. So that means that 4 times 1.5, versus 2 times 1.5 does matter. But it's basically just going to make his health regen a little bit worse for that early game. And of course late game too, but it's not going to matter as much then because it's just a flat number. Damage decreased on Dragon Tail by 10 at all levels. I mean, they're nerfs. Certainly are nerfs. Drow, the chance of marksmanship proccing increased by on the early. It's just more likely earlier. It still equals out. Just makes level 6 Drow scarier. Okay, Stepping Stone was creating a Stone Remnant in front of Earth Spirit, and I guess that's not really nearly as good. So instead now it refreshes Stone Remnant so you can cast it. That's way better for Earth Spirit. So that's really fucking nice. Yeah, cool. Earthshaker. Well, it does say, Earthshaker, Slugger, which I don't even know what it does, but enemies killed with Enchant Totem are sent flying. Okay, got it. Kill, knockback, max health, this damage is increased from 5 to 7. It probably just didn't do enough damage, so now it does more when you're hit with that body. Base mana regen for enchanters increased by 0.5. Who cares? Faceless Void. Time Zone, which is a replacement to Chronosphere. Now, Pierce's debuff immunity, I guess it didn't. Turn speed manipulation was increased by 10% at all levels. Yeah, I know. Which obviously is going to make it much slower to turn. Distortion Field, which is an 8 ability, which slows attack projectiles. Slows them less. No, sorry, more. I read it wrong. More in general. 10 at all levels. And the radius was increased by 100, meaning it'll actually slow them longer, too, since it's a bigger radius, and it'll take longer. So now Faceless Void's annoying as fuck, basically. That's what it looks like. I haven't read most of these, by the way. Oscar, HP for max bonus of Berserker's Blood was increased from 10 to 12, meaning to get the max attack speed, max magic resistance, and all that. He doesn't have to have quite as low health, which is a huge buff to Huskar. He doesn't have to sit on the precipice of death anymore. I had a sneeze. I wish I had sneezed. And buff for his Berserker's Blood regen increased by 5% on talent. Huskar is disgusting. So, Invoker got a base damage increase of 2 in his Mastermind innate ability, which is what allows him to deny a lane creep, get some XP, was increased by 10%, which means that Invoker, when he starts taking control of the lane, will get more and more and more levels, and that's kind of how you play the hero, so that's really good. Io Metagun, which is the one that grants armor magic resistance rather than the attack speed and stuff, was increased by 1 at all levels for armor, and magic resistance went up by 2, 3, 4, 5. So basically, I think they realized the offensive one is probably better, so they just tried to buff the defensive one, so you might actually take it. Jakiro. Liquid Frost's cooldown was decreased at the earlier levels, so you can actually use the damn ability, so that's fair. Juggernaut. Strength gain was decreased by 0.2. That's minor, but still makes him squishy. Mana cost increased on Blade Fury at all levels. I mean, Jug kind of got ruined a little bit last nerf they gave him, so this just kind of solidifies it. Damage to barrier was decreased by 10% at overwhelming odds, so it won't make Legion so fucking tanky if she takes this facet. Overwhelming odds, Ag Shard radius bonus in duel was decreased too, so if you're dueling and you have Ag Shard, use overwhelming odds, it's not quite as big. Aghanim Scepter no longer reduces dual cooldown, and they nerfed this talent overwhelming odds. So really just nerfs all around, putting Legion more in line with like other heroes. Leshrac was gaining AoE per intelligence. I haven't seen Leshrac since that, but I guess they decreased the AoE gained per intelligence slightly, so that Leshrac won't have such a gigantic AoE. That's probably needed. Fuck Leshrac. So, Lifestealer's Mega Rage facet, the duration was increased by 1 second at all levels, which is actually really fucking good. But they did take away 0.5 off of this talent. That still means that he's gaining, even at the talent if he took it, 0.5, net. And they nerfed his lifesteal and damage talent also. Still, better hero. Fiery Soul's move speed bonus was increased by 0.5 at all levels, so now she's much faster, which is sad. Lone Druid, please be nerfs. No. Unbearable True Form now grants Spirit Bearer plus 10 attack speed instead of -1 base attack. But actually, it probably might be better. It depends on the attack speed. Better and worse. Spirit Bearer's Demolish is now increased by 5, 10, 15, 20. Fuck you. Talent buff. True Form cooldown replaced with Savage Roar radius. And True Form put down that way. So basically they just changed it because they thought the True Form cooldown was too good. So they put the Savage Roar radius instead. Honestly, fuck Lone Druid. Lycan, summon the Spirit Wolves thing. Bonus damage per wolf is now a base damage increase. Bonus damage per wolf was decreased by 2 at all levels to make that more fair. I don't know, I guess they just want this to be like a base damage increase because why not? That's probably a nerf, I think. Magnus is gained 1 intelligence. Solid core now reduces knockback effects instead of forced movement, so forced movement will still move him just as much, but knockback will not. Skewer now does a little bit more damage, 5, 10, 15, 20. And now the thing that gives you all stats when you hit a hero with reverse polarity increased by 2. Alright, this is what Furry was talking about. Marcy. I think Marcy did need a buff, but I think this might be too far. Lifesteal on this talent increased. Lifesteal on that, the same lifesteal, 5 at all levels. Bonus armor on the bodyguard was increased by 0, 1, 2, 3. So much more armor. Damage on dispose went up 5, 10, 15, 20. And rebounds damage went up, 10 at all levels. They're not big changes, but they're changes. Shut up, Thor. I don't think it's going to make Marcy much better at her job, but, it's whatever. Mars, HP regen per extra enemy. I just patch notes every time, Thor. I've done a patch note for every single DotA patch for, the last couple of years. HP regen per extra enemy increased from 25 to 30%. So, the more enemies around Mars, he's just getting more regen now, so it's easier for him to just heal out. It's fair. Medusa, mana drain per second on Mana Pact. What's Mana Pact? Oh, Mana Shield can be activated draining mana. Okay. It doesn't drain as much mana now. That's fair. It was too much. Divided We Stand clones now get 85% of main meeple stats. No. Come on, man. Poof damage was decreased, though. 10 at all levels. They used to get a much worse stat sharing, I think, if I remember correctly. Fuck Dweebo. Solar Flare, which is the thing that's not Moonlight Shadow. Attack speed and damage increase rate was increased. So it gives more attack speed and damage, which is gross. She didn't need that. Monkey King. The health threshold decreased from 100 to 90. Because you were only going to get all these bonuses if you were at 100% health. But that was unreasonable, so now it's 90% health. And I think that's fair. Allow him to have no cooldown for Tree Dance. Balance Strike. The Aghanim Shard now applies the bonus damage and slow to all enemies, even if you don't jump with it. Which is fair. It should be that way. Most other abilities that have an alternate cast mode, they don't make you use the alt cast mode to get the bonus from the shard. So that's needed. Some small talent buffs, they're minor. Morphling, Flow. I don't know what that is. Maximum cooldown reduction was increased from 50 to 60, so you can get more cooldown reduction. Fuck. I hate Morphling. Ofrenda. When respawning, Muerta gains the effect of Pierce the Veil for 3 to 4 seconds, if it has been levels. Respawning with Ofrenda now refills bottle. I don't know what that is. I don't remember that. I'm sure it's a thing.
Do not fear.
We're going to place a friend on the map to respawn there instead of the fountain. Got it. So I think they really want her to use Ofrenda. They want it to be a thing, and people aren't using it. They're using the calling benefit that I've seen. So now when she comes back, she'll have a free Pierce the Veil for some amount of time. And she'll have a refill bottle as well, just for convenience. Deluge, which is the thing instead of her normal Riptide, I believe. The mana cost was decreased, so it's cheaper. Damage was increased at later levels. And status resistance reduction was increased as well, so it's always its maximum. I mean, it definitely makes it more tempting to take it. You'll probably see this more often. Nature's Prophet gains bonus damage for each tree within a radius. They increased it. The multiplier was rescaled, so it has to scale back to 3. It ends up being more than 3 later on. It's 4 or 5. Tree and health was increased as well by a lot. 50, 100, 150, 200. So now that the Ironwood Treants are pretty gross. Teleportation barrier was increased by 50 at all levels. Cooldown rescaled to be worse early, better late on Nature's Call. Gross, just gross, just gross. This is all gross. Necrophos. Sadist. The duration was rescaled to always be 8, which is its level second level, which is shit. Health regen per kill rescaled to be better late, worse early. Mana regen is the same treatment. And ruined the Sadist stack talent as well. So, poor Necrophos. Taking Scuttled, the Facet, makes things really fast. Like, hasted for longer. 5 additional seconds, which is a really nice buff to Nick, so lets him really run around. Fat Chance was changed to be 0.01% better on the multicast. I think they were realizing the multicast wasn't good enough as it was with Fat Chance. They were like, let's fix that. That's fair. Omni Knight, Degen Aura. Damage increase interval was decreased from 0.5 to 0.4. Excuse me. Which means it'll end up having a bigger damage increase over time. And damage stacks now decay at the same rate when the enemy is out of the AoE, which means it also takes longer for it to leave. Oracle. His facet, whatever it is, spell amp per level was increased by 0.25. It's minor. I'm going to be done with this soon, so I'm going to start inviting people to play DotA, big PS. Falcon, you're included in that. Whether you come or not, I'm going to be playing shortly. Thor, I know you were here too. So I'll be waiting in channel as I'm talking and finishing this up. OD, his facet for the Essence Flux. It increases maximum mana when you restore mana with Essence Flux. The mana increased duration was increased for 3 seconds. Makes it a lot better, for sure. That's nice. Pango. Minimum damage increased by 25%, so you'll always do damage no matter what. Slash width on Swashbuckle increased by 15, making it easier to hit. Yeah, go ahead. So it does a little bit more, like a bigger, wider effect on everybody. Easier to hit everybody. And magic resistance during Rolling Thunder increased by 10%. That's really nice too. I still don't want to play Pango anymore since they ruined Swashbuckle, but at least they're trying something that's going to make him a little bit better. I definitely looked over here, by the way. Methodical, the facet that gives you guaranteed crits on the 6th hit on heroes, 3rd on creeps. I think maybe it's 4th. The crit damage went up by 25 at all levels, which is sick. And now Blur provides 3, 6, 9, 12 bonus movement speed while active. Yeah, no, honestly, man, it's because they ruined him. They ruined him with the Swashbuckle change. This probably won't fix it either. It'll just make him like he'll go from 39 to like 45, which is still bad, you know. It's nice to see PA get a little buff. I liked it. Phantom Lancer got a nerf to Divergence, and that was needed. It was the one that makes his illusions do a ton more damage, but they're uncontrollable. So they just nerfed him by 2% at all level, which is definitely needed. It was too strong. So for sure. I play PL, for sure. Phoenix, Dying Light. Effects are no longer applied by illusions. Percentage of missing health as damage was decreased by 1.5%. I don't even know what that facet is, so now I have to check. Phoenix deals a percentage of his missing health as magic damage to all enemies in radius every second. It's passive, it's always. Interesting. Like a radiance. So now illusions don't apply it, and it doesn't do as much damage to everybody. It's just it's worse. Blinding Sun, which is his innate. His abilities apply stackable mischance. The duration went down by 1, making it not as big of a deal. And they lowered the attack speed slow early of Fire Spirits, making it not so impactful in lane. Phoenix probably needed that nerf. It was necessary. So whenever Puckish, which is an innate ability, whenever Puck disjoints an attack, it restores some of its max mana, max health. And if you dodge a targeted spell, you restore 3 times the amount originally. Now it's 4 times. So Puck avoiding spells is going to make Puck just start healing, getting mana wicked fast. Alright, Pudge. Good changes here. Flare's Hook, which just didn't feel that good. The projectile speed and cast range increased by 15%, making the hook wicked fast, and it goes longer. The damage was also increased, 5, 10, 15, 20, which makes it a little bit more tempting to do. The mana cost on Meat Shield went up, probably needed at the early levels. They buffed the Meat Hook talent. They nerfed the Dismember Heal talent. I mean, this is all good. This is good stuff. This is what was needed for Pudge. Masochist, outgoing spell damage reflected, decreased by 2%. Masochist, I think, is when Quap takes damage, she does it back, if I'm correct. She gets Spell Amp, but a percentage of her spell damage is reflected back to her.
And don't forget about the whip.
Yeah, okay, so she doesn't get as much damage reflected back at her, so it's a buff. Ricky, I love this one. Exterminator is that you get an agility multiplier against creeps with Tricks of the Trade. I take that all the time to farm. So that's 3, instead of 3 times, it's 4 times. And remember the agility bonus. So he gets an agility bonus of 40, 60, 100, 80, 100. That's how much agility he gets, and then he attacks units using that new agility. Now the agility multiplier is 1 more times of that, like 100. So it's an additional 100 agility when I attack. That's damage, then damage again, because regular damage plus backstab. And Tricks of the Trade regularly also got a 10 on all level increase of the agility regularly, which is then multiplied, right? So it's really nice. Let's see, Rubik. If you take Frugal Filch, which is stolen spells, also have lower mana cost. Stolen mana cost reduction was increased, so they have even less mana early. They cost less mana early. Magic resistance per level was increased by 0.25. It probably wasn't enough magic resistance. That's fair. Sand King. They changed both. Sorry, not buffed. The radius on Sandstorm, the one that makes you invisible, was increased. This is a buff, 25 at all levels, just making it a bigger Sandstorm. Dust Devil, the radius was decreased by 125 at the bottom level all the way to 200, so it's a very small Sandstorm. And it no longer centers on Sand King after Burrow Strike. Caustic's max health as damage was rescaled to be worse early, a little better late. Yeah, I'm sure. Aghanim Scepter, damage and stun duration are now 70% of Burrow Strike's current damage and stun. I think they actually were more before. So I think that's probably, a benefit. Aghanim Scepter Spine interval was increased, meaning how often, like how long it has to wait until a spine comes out is twice as long. And Aghanim Scepter Spines per interval was increased. So basically spines don't come out as often, but more spines come when they do. So it takes twice as long for spines to hit, but then there's 3 of them instead of 2, so it's more likely to get hit by spines. Aghanim Scepter Spines no longer appear if Sand King is outside the Sandstorm. So it's easier, you can actually try to attack Sand King in theory. The Talon on Burrow Strike got decreased here. Yeah, this is all nice. I think these are really nerfs, honestly. So this is all nice. Some buffs here. Shadow Fiend, Presence of the Dark Lord, Hero Reduction Duration, which is the reduction on, it reduces armor, was increased by 10 seconds, making it happen longer. But the move slow on Shadowmire went down by 2%, so he can't slow as much, which is probably needed. Shadow Shaman, base strength was decreased by 3, making him squishy. Hex, Cluster Cluck, which is, I don't even know what. You cast on allies to apply a basic dispel and make them invulnerable before turning into a chicken. Creates additional uncontrollable chicken illusions. No longer provides bonus move speed, so it doesn't even make you faster anymore, but it did. Hex no longer provides damage amp. The Aghanim Scepter Serpent Wards now linger for 1.5 seconds after Shackles end, instead of lasting, I think it was 6 seconds or whatever it is. They used to last, you could just cast Shackles real quick and stop. Now they don't last nearly as long. You have to keep holding the Shackle. Foul Play no longer provides movement speed. That's his, when he takes lethal damage, it doesn't make him faster. These are huge nerfs. They really just fucking came for Shadow Shaman. They just fucking gutted the hero. I think he's still probably playable, but that's a really big, across the board nerfs. Slaughter lost 0.3 agility gain. That's armor, attack speed. Guardian Sprint, the bonus movement speed was decreased by a huge amount early. And some of his talents were nerfed too. That's probably needed. Nice nerfs on Slutter. Slark, the search range for Barracuda, which is... So... I don't know how the linger works. Okay, Dark Reef Renegade. Barracuda lingers after being revealed to the enemy if Slark is not near allied heroes. So now Slark doesn't have to... He can be a little closer to his allies by 200 and still get the Barracuda from Dark Reef Renegade. So that's kind of nice. His health from Barracuda went up at the mid to late levels. From level 2 onward, it increased by 10. So that's really nice. And they lowered the cooldown by 10 seconds at all levels for Shadow Dance. So nice Slark buffs. Snapfire. Ricochet attacks now proc attack modifiers on secondary targets. That's gross. Fuck that. Glancing shot damage was increased from 50 to 60%. So once you get to glancing shot, it's not so bad. Sniper. Damage delay decreased, meaning how long it takes for shrapnel to hurt you went down by 0.4 seconds, which is a huge buff. Keen Scope, which is his attack range, it scales to the same amount late, but it starts higher. So now, right from the beginning of the game, Sniper has an additional 60 range, which is huge. Which is really nice. Damage when non-hero units are nearby was increased from 50 to 60. If an enemy has only non-hero allies nearby, it will take 60% of Desolate's damage. Right, okay. So basically, just having creeps around won't save you as much. And they took this town away because it didn't feel impactful and got health regen instead, which is like whatever. Spirit Raker. Bonus movement speed now starts fading over the linger duration up to 2.5 seconds. So instead of just being really fast and then it goes away, it now has to fade. It is a nerf, technically. The imbalanced Nether Strike now amplifies knockback effects instead of force movement. So now it won't affect any force movement like a force tap, but it will affect any knockback. They took away Storm's base mana regen, and the damage on a Static Remnant went down by 20 at all level, which is sad. Almost done, guys. Sorry for anybody who's waiting. Sven, bonus damage to stun targets was increased by 15% to 17%, which is like whatever. I don't care. It's just nice for Sven because he'll do a little bit more damage. And they buff some of his talents, which are nice. Techies has a 50 higher attack range, which means get ready for Techies to plink you. And Minefield Sign comes out faster. They nerfed Refraction's bonus damage by 5 at all levels. Psionic Traps. Agshar was nerfed. The min silence duration was decreased by 0.5. Max by 0.5. Bonus damage was decreased by 50. 25-0. So some nice small nerfs to her. Soul Fragment, which is one of Terrorblade's facets. It's when it has a higher health cost. The mana cost goes to 0. You're paying health instead of mana rather than both, which is cool. They also buffed his talent on meta. Tidehunter's strength gain went up by 0.1, and his strength gain on Krill Eater, which is his facet that makes him have a higher strength gain overall, but weaker early, I believe, also went up by 0.1. So that particular facet obviously is a little better, but Tide's also just better earlier anyway. And that's kind of cool. Tinker. Repair bots make March heal more. Laser's cooldown was decreased. March's cooldown was decreased. Rearm's cooldown was decreased. They're just trying their best to make Tinker relevant, and he's not going to be. They already ruined him by taking away his items, so it's done. Tiny is 10 slower, thank God. Bonus building damage was decreased by 10, 15, 20, 25. That's huge. And then some talent nerfs on top of it. Good. Fuck Tiny. They got rid of Battle Trance slow resistance and increased Battle Trance duration. That's probably better, actually. He's fast enough. They buffed both of Tusk's facets by 1 second. It's the same buff. Bitter Chill, which is his passively slowing attack speed of all enemies. The slow was increased by 10 at all levels, so it's a bigger slow. Aghanim Shard damage was increased by 25 per second. That's awesome. And 10% higher slow. And now Walrus Punch as a lower cooldown at early levels. So that's a nice buff to Tusk, making him a lot more relevant, I think. That's really nice for him. Underlord, the Abyssal Horde facet, the Archer Ore move speed was decreased, making it it's always its minimum, so it doesn't give a huge, crazy movement speed thing. Aghanim Scepter cooldown reduction was decreased by 10 seconds, meaning that when he gets Aghanim Scepter, it's 10 seconds longer cooldown. Undying Steel Strength for 5 seconds less, which is a nerf. Minor. 1 second cooldown buff at all levels for Earth Shock for Ursa. We love that. Okay, Plague Carrier. Wards attached to allies now yield 20% of the gold bounty, now has 3 charges. So this allows you to do more with the Plague Wards, I guess. Noxious Plague's max HP as damage was decreased, though, by 1% at all levels, so Noxious Plague doesn't feel as big of a deal. So overall, I think that's probably a nerf, because Noxious Plague is one of the things that makes Venom a hero. Max stacks of poison attack increased by 1, that's a huge. And Nether Toxin is 400 faster to hit the ground, right? Really big buffs to Viper. I didn't read any of these, many of these down here. Visage. Familiar Gold Bounty went down by 30, sad. Familiar attack range was increased dramatically. Holy shit, it's almost twice the attack range. Okay, so we're going to see, it's only for the Faithful Followers facet, but we're going to see a lot more Visage with that facet, I believe. That's really painful. Void Spirit Sanctuary facet. The base damage barrier was decreased by 5, 10, 15, 20. The bonuses that Void Spirit gets from all stats decreased by 8%. So he'll just get the secondary stuff like attack speed, armor, that stuff. He just won't get as much. And the Aghanim Scepter base charge restore time was increased by 3, making it 3 slower, right? All nerfs, which we love. We love to hear that. Fatal Bond's duration was decreased, so it's actually lower than its minimum at all times. That's such a big nerf for Warlock. The range on Arctic Burn was decreased by 25 at all levels, making right-click Winter Wyvern not looking so good. This one will interest Thor.
Hello.
Hey, Thor. Headhunter, which is the bonus damage per bounce, which is what I typically take when I play Witch Doctor, now isn't quite as good. It lost 5. This is per bounce, that obviously matters. Voodoo Festeration, which is making your voodoo do damage instead of healing, still heals you. And only you. Sorry, the toenail thing is just happening right now, so try to fix it while I talk. That's better. It's not perfect, that's better. It's only half the value, though. So, at least Witch Doctor, if he wants to be like a solo hero, be a carry or something, then he wouldn't care. He'd be like, well, at least I still get some healing. Cleft Death, which is the split Voodoo Restoration, increased its damage by 3 at the minimum and 4 at the maximum, basically. It's not going to be enough. That's not enough. At least they tried, but, like, it doesn't matter.
I feel like increasing it by 10, maybe.
Yes, that would be a bigger deal, yes. Alright, Wraithing. I didn't read these changes over here. I'm really excited. Vampiric Spirit, which is his passive, right? Makes him turn into a ghost. Bonus attack speed in Wraith form is decreased, so it has to scale up to 75. That's a huge nerf. Bonus movement speed in Wraith form has to scale up to 25. Huge nerf. Mortal Strike's cooldown was increased at all levels by 0.5, making it so he can't crit nearly as often. His Aghanim Shard damage bonus was decreased by 100%.
It's a huge one.
Yes. And cooldown and reincarnation is frozen while Wraith King is in Wraith form. What that does is that prevents Wraith King from having like 5 seconds left on reincarnation, dying, and then like going into his Wraith form either from Ags or his regular passive, and then reincarnation getting up and him being able to reincarnate, because that is how it worked. Huge nerfs. I think they ruined Wraith King actually. Livewire, which is the static field, deals more damage to nearby enemies. Now scales with Thunderguard's Wrath, so it has to scale up to 7%, so that's a nerf. Static Field, which is his new innate ability, now scales with Underguard's Wrath. So now it has to scale up to what it was at, so it's worse early. Cast range for Arc Lightning went down by 50. Lightning Bolt no longer deals bonus damage to creeps, so it's harder to farm. Cooldown increased on Thunderguard's Wrath by 10. Lightning Hands is no longer applied by illusions, so goodbye right-click Zeus. It's terrible now. Talent nerf. Zeus might be the biggest hit hero in this entire patch. Quick reflections. I'll take a 2-minute reflection break. I don't think anything up here is crazy. Armlet-wise, big losers. Blade Mail being more expensive. Crimson Guard early nerf. Eternal Shroud coming out sad. And Wind Waker being sad. I don't really care about almost any of the neutral items. Huge Axe nerfs. That's a big one, right? We like those. Huge Centaur nerfs. I thought that was meaningful. Huge Death Prophet buffs. Probably needed. Dragonite nerfs. I'm not sure if it's enough, but that's probably needed. Huge Faceless Void buffs. Might be needed, not sure. I don't know how to feel about some of these heroes. Magnus buffs. I'm not sure they're big enough, though. Marcy's is minor, even though it looks big. I would say these are big Muerta buffs. I think this is really big with Ofrenda. I think Nature's Prophet buffs are definitely going to see play. Well, he's mostly buffs. Not all of them are buffs, but mostly. Necrophos, big nerfs. That's going to hurt. Pangolier buffs might see him playable. PA buffs is going to disgust everybody. Phoenix nerfs needed. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's about it. Everything else is pretty minor. Oh, huge Sand King. I believe nerfs. That's definitely... Oh, and Shadow Shaman nerfs. I think that's mostly everything. I think that's the big ones. Those are the big ones. We're going to see how this affects the meta. I think it's going to take some time for it to, like, actually matter. Because it's hard to say that, like, oh, that'll affect this. I don't know, but it feels like it's going to be impactful. Either way, I'm going to end this broadcast. I'm going to start playing Dota, and I will broadcast that separately because I like to separate my videos like that. Those of you on YouTube, appreciate you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time. Those of you on Twitch, I will be back in, like, 35 seconds.